All right, I've got 6 p.m. I'll call to order this meeting of the Columbus Utility Commission for Thursday, April 17th, 2025. David, that's really loud for some reason. Hello? Is that normal?
No, I think he's trying to adjust
Okay.
it.
Check, check. Hello? Hello? Still getting a little ring out here, David. Okay. Maybe it's just my microphone. When you're ready, Matt, could you take a roll call for us?
Don't turn on to it once.
Clearly. Rule.
Here.
Sanderson.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Tome.
Here.
Curtis.
Here.
Antlers excused. Finkler.
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum. This meeting has been noticed in accordance with state statutes and local ordinances. Next item is to approve the agenda for the evening. Unless there's any alterations or deletions, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda. I will second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The agenda is approved. Move on to public comment. Is there anyone present this evening wishing to speak under public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have the approval of the March 20th, 2025 Utility Commission meeting minutes, and then also to approve the utilities cash disbursement report and accounts payable report. Are there any questions or comments on items on the consent agenda?
I so move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion on the motion? If none, could you please take a roll call, Matt?
Sanderson.
Aye.
Hammer.
Aye.
Tome.
Aye.
Curtis.
Aye.
Finkler.
Aye.
Rule.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to new business. Number 3 is the presentation by Forster Electric on the multi-year electric conversion project. We've got quite a bit of information in our packets that was distributed to commission members, which kind of goes over this. So,
I'll go ahead and introduce the team for Forster. Jacob Feltz is to my right. He's going to lead the presentation. I know we have other Bruce Beth, and I did not catch.
Rick Wicklund.
So the team from Forster's here. They'll go through, answer any questions, and a lot of the rest of the agenda kind of flows off of their presentation in terms of kind of laying out the projects that are in 4, 5, and 6.
Do you need me to talk into the mic?
Probably, yeah.
That one. Okay. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, yeah. Okay. I'm going to talk about the past, and Jacob's going to talk about the future. So the last time I was to the Utility Commission meeting, a lot of you weren't there. Jack, you were there. Joe, you were there, but in a different role. It was 2021 in August. And we had, previous to that, in 2019, so before COVID, had done a long-range plan for the utility, kind of charted out the next 10 years. I did an addendum to it in 2021, and that was to address some fairly concerning things that we saw happening with growth, which is good. But your two biggest customers were on a circuit pairing that under reliability had to be put on the same circuit. And we knew that during that time at the peak load, you wouldn't be able to carry the load the way it is. And we haven't addressed that yet. And these are things that don't happen very often, but if they could happen, they will someday. And they have happened. They're happening right now. I don't want to scare you because I think we got it under control. We waited till the loads were low and we took the substation that's right behind the utility office out of service. Sub 3 has been out of service for probably now 6 weeks or something, huh? And it was supposed to be 1 or 2 weeks. And we've had a number of things. It's an older transformer. It doesn't seem that old because I remember when we put it in, brand new, shiny. But it's a little long in the teeth now, so it's showing its age. There's some things that happened while we were putting it back together. A bushing that's going to be talked about later in the evening that is leaking, so we can't keep pressure in the transformer. We're going to get that fixed before summer, put it back online, and then we'll be good for another summer. But will you always be so lucky? We got a plan that something could happen that we can address that situation. So that 2021 presentation was what's the best way to do that. And I was frustrating in that one because I came with 4 plans and they are all good. Some of them were a little more far-fetched than others, like they should be, and so you get the good one. Our idea was to inject power between the 2 biggest customers. And our plan was to do it with a substation, which was expensive. And it would also involve American Transmission Company. So I left that meeting, said I will come back after we talk to American Transmission Company and say, which is the best value plan for you? And I'm keeping that promise tonight since 2021. Nobody remembers that I made that promise except me, perhaps, but to me it's like fitting. We've got the best plan for you now. So we took the 4 plans to ATC, American Transmission Company, and found out they had plans to do some work in the area as well. And we came up with a 5th plan that took elements of 2 of the plans and made a 5th one that was good for them and good for you. And they've agreed on what is the best value plan now. Now that you're part of that best value plan, they pay for their part. The part that you pay for is what Jacob's going to talk about. But I just want to connect it to that past effort. It solves the problems, and it puts off as much as we can to the future and does the most important things right away and allows American Transmission Company to provide you better service. And it doesn't require a new substation site, which is the biggest thing, I'm glad to say. But it does solve the problem of injecting power between the 2 largest customers with a circuit tie, which will require bigger transformers at your existing sites. But instead of having more substations in Columbus, you'll have the same number with better transmission service and bigger transformers over time through attrition as we upgrade transformers. So that's the big picture to see tonight. You'll see it in the details that Jacob talks about. But anyway, that's about all I have to say. Jacob Feltz is an engineer that graduated from UW-Platteville. He can tell a little bit about himself. He's done a really good job for you guys. And I did get a resume across my desk from a guy who's in the industry, in the municipal utility business. And so Rick Wickland's been mentoring Jacob on some of the things that you guys would be looking for as managers of a utility. So with that said, Jacob, take it away.
Thank you, Bruce, for the introduction. Yeah, so my name is Jacob Feltz. So I've been here at Forrester for about 1.5 years now. So starting to learn things, and I hope that we walk away after this presentation with a clear understanding of what the future is and what the next action steps will be. So presentation overview, so we'll go kind of a quick system overview to make sure that we're talking the right terms about substations. We'll get into some current projects. I'll kind of walk through what ATC is planning on their side, then the identified issues on our side of things, and the cash flow at the end. So here's the quick overview. So the transmission side. So let's see here, perfect. So currently what we're seeing here is the blue is the existing transmission, and that's right at 69,000 volts. So we have the blue here. So that's kind of the map. So our substation 1 and substation 2, that's on Water Street. So hopefully we can see these pictures very well, but that's the water plant there. Substation 3, that's on Maple Avenue. That's the one that Bruce was referencing behind the utility office. and substation 4. This one's on the south side. So the distribution system. So in Columbus, we have two different voltage levels. So we have 4,000 volts and we have 12,000 volts. So the only one substation left that's at 4,000 volts. Let's see here. Oh, my pointer. There we go. So substation 1 is the last one that we have of 4,000 volts, and then the rest of the system is 12,000 volts. So current projects. So this is at substation 3, Maple Avenue substation, the one behind the utility office building. So we have an ongoing project. We're upgrading some voltage regulators. We replaced the high side protection device, which protects the assets in the substation. Those were due to age and due to increased functionality. We did some metering upgrades, and then we just did some general inspection maintenance. And as Bruce alluded, the one last thing that we have is this bushing. And on this picture here, this top piece shouldn't be shifted over, so it should be dead center. And we think that over time, the weight of the connecting piece that was on top of it, just the weight of it kind of shifted things over. So this is kind of our problematic thing, is having that here. So we have to have a good seal. And the solution to that is we found a new old stock item online that we can have shipped over within the next couple days for around $2,000.
Is that on the low side?
Yeah.
Low side, yep.
'Cause we've had some raccoon issues in the past that probably can help this
Sure.
situation.
Okay.
Where the dead bodies are.
So then the next current project that we have going on that's ramping up is that we have a customer that came to us and asked for a new service extension and to reconfigure an existing circuit. The estimated cost for the extension and for the required circuit modifications, that's the estimate that will be charged to the customer. So that's the total minus any of the credits for accumulated depreciation that we came up with. So that'll be asked from the customer right away. So they did request that we try to coordinate the installation and the removal of the overhead power line with their parking lot expansion. And there's also a couple of items that we should be ordering soon so that we can have it in time for their new service that'll come on in 2026. That'll be the transformer and the metering cabinet. Those are just a little bit longer lead time items. So those would be the two items to take action on. And then of that, Columbus should anticipate budgeting around $62,000 for this. This includes the current transformers, so metering equipment for revenue, and then the depreciation of the existing transformer that they have. So there's a little bit of a credit that they'll get there. A potential credit for load added, so if they increase their load, and then just some spare equipment for that would go into the metering equipment. So that's that figure there. Okay.
What's the name of the customer?
That would be the hospital for
Prairie Ridge.
Prairie Ridge. Yep.
Prairie Ridge.
Mhm. So planned upgrades by ATC. So we kind of stepped through the current projects. Now we're kind of stepping into the future. So this slide kind of covers what Bruce covered, so I'm not going to go word for word, but Bruce kind of did a good job explaining the reason why ATC is going through these upgrades. So I'm going to start on now there's a map here, so I'll kind of start on this side of town, and then I'm going to walk through, because substation 3 is over here, I'm going to walk down through substation 4 and then end on substation 1 and 2. So at substation 3, ATC will be replacing their assets within the substation, basically so that they can transport more power through that area. So there's no really Columbus investments at substation 3. Next, we have part of this project is, so as Bruce alluded to, so ATC is trying to figure out how to transport power to communities around Columbus, but also how to transport power to Columbus substations. So currently, ATC takes the route of here, their line goes from here and out. And the current configuration is a tap here to a substation, a tap here, and a tap here. So, in talking with ATC, it's actually, their plan is to go from here down and through all of our substations, which is a pretty unique and rare thing to have for a municipal utility, is to have all of their substations connected so that you can have power from both ways. Because right now, if a car like hits a pole here, we don't have a way, or a pole here, we don't have a way to have a secondary source of power. So the ultimate goal is to have a power from one side and power from the other side. So part of that plan is for Circuit 301, which is currently owned by Columbus and operated at 12,000 volts. Part of this plan would be the sale of those assets to ATC because it was originally designed to operate at 69,000 volts, which is what ATC operates at. So ATC would purchase this segment here, and then they would upgrade, they would put any money that's required to upgrade that so that it can be used within their system. So now, going into this section here, Substation 4. So within Substation 4, ATC would be doing something similar to Substation 3, which is behind the utility office, but they would be having a high capacity power line here and 3 places for a transformer. So currently, Adams Columbia Electric Cooperative is on the existing Substation 4 transformer, and we're kind of engaging in discussions right now to have Adams Columbia potentially have their own transformer. So that could free up some space that we currently rent out through agreements to Adams Columbia. So if, ultimately we'll have a room for an additional one for us, a potential one for Adams Columbia. So we're kind of engaging in discussions there. But ATC, they'll be building all of this stuff. So again, that's a ATC investment on their end and providing us places in the future to hook up potential future transformers.
Could I add just?
Yeah.
And this has nothing to do with you guys, except it's an awesome thing that ATC is doing. They're putting breakers at that site. So any transmission fault from Academy to the Columbus number 4 would take out sub 3, but not sub 4. Any fault from sub 4 all the way to South Beaver Dam, a fault on the transmission system would take out sub 2, but it would never take out sub 4. Any transformers you put at this site would never be subject to any transmission faults, lightning, all those sorts of things that storms come through, tornadoes come through that take out transmission lines. This substation is still going to be in service. So that's what's enticing to Adams Columbia, enticing to you as well, to make an investment there. The diversity of having only one of your 3 transformers affected by any outage is it makes it easier for the line crew to restore power faster. So it's the nice thing that ATC is doing.
Yeah, so that was a good segue into the ultimate configuration. So ATC's plan is to kind of abandon and not use the line that's paralleling the tracks. So it'll come down here through Substation 3 to Substation 4, and then they're going to beef up and replace anything that they need in this existing line here. Yeah, that's kind of the ultimate configuration. So we walked through what ATC's got on their end. Basically, they're going to be upgrading, doing a lot of investments that's beneficial to Columbus within our substations, which we're very fortunate to have that opportunity. So now it comes to what investments are required by Columbus. So the biggest one is replacing Circuit 301, which is it's a high capacity feed between Substation 3 and Substation 4. Somehow we have to figure out our best option to replace that within the system. Now I kind of left this question here that I'll allude to later answers, but is an exact replacement of 301 the correct choice? So should we just install it parallel? And that might not be. We've determined that it wasn't the right choice to do. So I'm going to walk through some identified issues, and then I'll kind of come back to that. How are we going to replace that power line that we're about to sell to ATC? So the first issue is the age and condition of substation 1. So that transformer has been, and associated equipment has been in service for about 60 years. So there's rules of thumbs. The rule of thumb is that we like to say that on a transformer, it'll give you 50 years. It might go longer, which in this case it has, but after that, you're kind of on borrowed time in terms of like, okay, it's used its serviceable life. And beyond the transformer age, there's been indications through oil tests that like, hey, it's time that we should replace this or turn it off pretty quick, because there's indicators that have indicated that there might be problems inside of it. There's also auxiliary equipment, like the equipment that protects the transformer and protects the feeders. Some instruments become non-functional, dials and gauges, you just can't read things, so it's kind of an operational thing too. And the biggest thing though is that substation 1 and substation 2 are right next to each other. So if we had a catastrophic failure of a 60-year-old piece of equipment, we could be harming substation 2 equipment, which is, it's newer. So we don't want to have one problem affect substation 2. So how are we going to fix that? So this is agenda item number 4 on the business. That would be to approve $20,000 to place. We have existing mini transformers that they're not quite as big as substation ones, but they convert 12,000 volts to 4,000 volts. So we can place these strategically within the system so that we can kind of bypass and turn off substation 1 transformer, but then rely on the other substations to convert 12,000 volts to 4,000 volts. So we have, for about $20,000, we can strategically place these medium-sized transformers within the system, hook them up, and reliably serve our customers at 4,000 volts. So the next step would be to turn off substation 1, and then once it's off, we can kind of let it sit there. It's about another $20,000 for us to call someone up, scrap dealer, hey, pick up this transformer, let's remove this old thing. So that's another thing that we'll have to take action on if it's on the agenda item, I think, too. So the alternative, it's pretty unrealistic, but I mean, the only alternative to solving this substation 1 aging condition would be replacing 4 kV equipment in kind, and that's replacing a substation transformer, pretty expensive, $1.8 million, something that we don't really want to do, especially since we own equipment that we can install for $20,000 and solve this issue. So our next issue that we identified, and Bruce alluded to this, was insufficient backups for large customers. So this was the issue that kind of jump-started all of the ATC discussions. So this is kind of a central issue to Columbus's system. We have 2 large customers right in this area between substation 3 and substation 2, and 1 feeder feeds each of them. What happens, the issue that happens is when one of the substations are out, we have to serve both of those customers on either or of the feeders. And that kind of creates issues where if we have a hot day and a lot of people are using their AC, then we're starting to approach overloads on those circuits, which is not good, because if equipment fails, then everyone impacted between substations 2 and substations 3 will be impacted, which is not good. So what we determined is that if we install a feeder segment tying the feeder that goes to substation 3 and substation 2, there's also 2 other feeders that kind of goes from substation 2 through town, meets up here, and then there's another feeder that goes from substation 3, kind of goes through this area and meets up. But there's currently no tie. So if we invest around $361,000, we could have more options. So instead of saying it's either this circuit or that circuit, suddenly we have 2 other circuits that we're bringing into play that we can feed. So it's kind of like we have more options. So alternatives that we looked at here, we looked at building more feeders. So maybe we could do a double circuit that's going along the tracks behind here. We tried to investigate a circuit that goes from substation 3 behind the utility building, kind of through town here, but that was about $1.6 million. And we found it to be more economical and just as effective to create this tie here. So 4 kV legacy problem. So we talked about 4 kV conversion. So just like the substation transformer at substation 1, a lot of the 4 kV equipment is older. So we've been talking about this for a while, and Bruce probably knows too. This has been a conversation that we've had for a while, is how can we best implement conversion away from 4 kV? So the question might be, what's wrong with it? So there's a couple things. I mean, financially, we have to have a 12 kV and 4 kV inventory, so you have to double up on the amount of costs that you're doing. If you have to properly run the systems, you have to have your reliability built in both, so you're kind of doubling up your backups in both systems, which financially, if you have to back up 2 systems versus only backing up 1 system, it just makes more financial sense. And then just in the 4,000 voltage level alone, there's a couple limitations to why it's considered legacy. So you can't go as far with it. You can't transport as much power with it. The 12 kV equipment is much more efficient in terms of power line losses, and comparatively, 12 kV versus 4 kV, if you're serving a given load, you can typically 12 kV is more cost effective in terms of the ratings of equipment. So we have to install at 4,000 volts, we have to install heavier duty equipment and bigger wire compared to 12 kV, which we can get by with smaller wire. And that's just the intrinsic property of the voltage levels that we're dealing with. So the solution, so we came up with kind of 2 phases that we can tackle conversion with. So in phase 1, this primarily deals with the corridor of Business 151, Lexington and Parkway. Ludington? Yes, Ludington and Park Avenue, I think? Park Avenue, yes. So Business 151. So for $970,000, we can establish a high capacity feeder tie between substation 3, which is or substation 2, which is by the water plant, to substation 4, which is on the south side of town. This right here is kind of our answer to how we can operationally replace circuit 301. So if we're kind of hitting 2 birds with 1 stone here. So we're accomplishing conversion, but we're also replacing circuit 301 within the system. Instead of going from substation 3 to substation 4, we're going from substation 2 to substation 4. So we're kind of replacing here with over here. So for $970,000, phase 1 can be accomplished. And we're saying that phase 1 is critical because just of the timeline of it. So once we sell that 301 to ATC, we're going to want to make sure that we operationally equivalently replace it within the system. So phase 2, this one kind of has a little bit more flexibility in terms of the timeline, because once we establish our, what kind of point to the map? Once we establish our trunk feeder, our high capacity tie here, phase 2 involves kind of what's all connected to that. So kind of in this area, and we can strategically utilize our transformers, those mini step tie transformers that we're going to use to solve the substation 1 aging condition. We can still utilize those to kind of shift around the timeline of this $2.2 million, which is the remainder, the balance of what would be required to completely convert. So, so if that kind of makes sense. So what we're doing is we're establishing a high capacity tie, converting Business 151 because it's an immediate problem, but we can kind of have conversations about the timeline of this $2.2 million. So that's not as critical. It can shift around. So now summing up, now imagine that we've ATC's doing their work. We've established this feeder tie to fix some problems with identified 2 large loads that we have in the middle of our system. Now, with substation 1 being decommissioned, we have the final step here is that the substation 2 transformer is a little bit undersized, because what we're essentially doing is that when we turn off the substation 1 transformer, it goes from 69,000 volts to 4,000 volts. What we're doing is we're taking all of the load that's served by the substation 1 transformer and placing it onto the 12,000 volt system. So suddenly substation 2 capacity goes a little bit down, which is okay under normal conditions. But when we look at, say we have an outage at sub 4 or an outage at sub 3, substation 2 has to pick up a little bit of load from any of the substations that are out. And that's where we're starting to approach our limit. So right now the current size of the substation 2 transformer is a 10.5 megavolt amp. And that's just the ratings of what transformers are. But it's starting to approach that 10.5 with current loads. So a lot of these projects that we're talking about is going to be in 2028, so a little bit down the road. But what we're reading now on the system, the size of substation 2 transformer is insufficient for what the system would look like in the future. In addition, the substation 2 transformer is 41 years old, so that was another thing that we evaluated. I mean, there were prior discussions about having a new substation, but we found it to be the best value to replace and upsize the transformer at substation 2 because it's already 41 years old. So if we built a new substation, we'd have to turn around in a couple years and replace the substation 2 transformer. So again, we're kind of killing two birds with one stone, replacing an old asset that we've had on the system for a while, and we're also upsizing it to address other problems in the system. So what we're doing is we're going to go from a 10.5 size to a 22.4. So this would be for a cost of around $2.5 million. And for alternatives, I kind of alluded, we did consider a substation in the past, but nothing really addresses asset renewal other than replacing the transformer itself. So here's a cash flow summary. So we have on the top here, we have the step tie transformers. We have decommissioning substation 1. We have our reroute for the customer that they requested for rerouting. So this is the customer's portion. This is the utilities portion. We have the tie to address the two large loads that are within the center of our system. We have phase 1 of 4 kV conversion. Then we have phase 2, which I alluded to. This can kind of shift around. So we can kind of talk about cash flow and seeing where that fits. But then sub 2 transformer upgrade, that comes in at 2.5. So what's next? So if you guys have any questions, we can answer too, but I'll leave with kind of the next steps of where we go from here. So one item that I believe that we're going to take action on, whether we're going to approve today, would be a unit price contract. And I believe that there's some information in the packets about that. But what a unit price contract is it is a itemized list. So say we have like installing a power pole or burying a power line per foot or installing a transformer per transformer. And we think of every conceivable unit that we'd ever use. And what we would do is that Forester would issue a bid, and then we would align a contract, and then we would evaluate that contract. And this contract can be either used for small little things. So for example, it's likely that we would use the bore package, so installing underneath some roads for the customer service request that we had. It could be used for maintenance, or it could be used for larger projects. So it's kind of like it's a very versatile contract. There's no guaranteed work with it, but what Forester would do is we would help Columbus, we would help them find a contractor, go through the bidding process. We would evaluate it, determine what units that Columbus would most likely use in the projects that we know. We would have discussions with Dalton of what maintenance items might you need help with. Do you need help? Do you foresee yourself needing other projects, it's designed to be a supplemental thing. So Dalton and his crew, he can take as much work as he can, but if there's like a pinch point, like we really got to get going on the hospital project that we alluded to, it's there to help. So that's what a unit price contract is.
A contract, if I could just jump
Yeah.
in, and I know we're going to talk about later. It's very similar. A lot of you are familiar with the city's arrangement with Rupert Milkie, where we have a engineer on contract, kind of on retainer with known cost, and there's a structure that allows staff to then work with Forrester to develop a task order, or however you guys phrase that in terms of, you know, a project to move forward.
And just for clarity, it wouldn't be like with us, it would be signed with a contractor. So someone that like specializes in like installing underground conductors, or someone that specializes in overhead conductors. We would facilitate the arrangement of that, and we would help out Columbus with issuing those task orders. But once we have it in place, it's kind of sitting in idle. So there's like, you don't really have to act on it unless you need it. So there could be a very, if we don't need them, we just don't use it. But if we need a little bit of help here and there, we could say, hey, let's install insert, you know, what you need help on. So it's something that once you have it, it follows indices that kind of track the general cost of labor and cost of materials. So it's something that renews every year if you only if you want to. So we do write the contract in a way that says if the indices are going a little too high, we can back out. And if the contractor says, oh, the indices went down, or we can't hold up our side of the bargain, every year it's designed to have both sides evaluate and say, does this work out for us? So it's designed to be perpetual as long as it's beneficial to both sides.
And I'll just jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're right. Our relationship with the utility is very much like Rupert Milkie's, and we don't do any construction. So what this unit price contract is another contract that normally we would, for a big project, we would put out for bids and get bids from contractors and evaluate them, and you'd have a relationship with a contractor to do a defined scope of work. But then when that project's done, the contract's done. This is a contract that has zero value. You're not obligated to do anything with it, or can have as much as you want, and it endures as long as you want until it's mutually, both parties have to mutually agree to use indices to continue it forever. But it allows you to get more work done with less staff and a utility. We're always at a challenge to get more done with less people. And this allows you to do it by supplementing your people with other people that allow you to do projects that otherwise you would have had to bring a contractor to do the whole thing. And that's the beauty of it, is a lot of people would love to have a relationship with a contractor. I call you whenever I need you. That doesn't necessarily, make the lawyers happy. This is, per the law, a public bid that endures as long as you want, and it's whatever value you elect it to be. So it's getting all this work done for less money would be key to that. Doing as much as you can with the people you have, especially with some of these smaller projects or the conversion projects. And I think it's kind of key to taking that 2.2 million and saying, I don't need to borrow for that because I can do that with my crew over as, of course, Joe, you spent an entire career trying to get rid of the 4 kV system. So, but hopefully Dalton can get it done with a little bit of help and over a period of time. I'd rather take the 2.2 million and upgrade sub 2. And we already found somebody who wants to buy the transformer from you for the last 9 years of its life. I mean, you're not gonna, go to the bank with too much with that, but it at least has some remaining value. It's, you're not walking away from something that still works.
Filled with copper?
It is. I mean, you can. The sub 1, you're not going to get much for it because I think it's probably got PCBs in it. So that you're going to have to pay to have somebody take it off your hands. And they will reclaim the copper, but that's going to pay for them disposing of the hazard inside. But sub 2's got value. but it's too small. And, you know, it really, I was going to put more substations in Columbus, but with less transmission lines and the, you know, better sites for substations, I'd rather put bigger transformers where I get great transmission service. So it really changed our whole outlook when we got this best value plan finished.
Perfect.
I had one quick question
yeah, sure.
on the unit price contract. I'm very familiar with the relationship between the city and Rupert Milky and how all that works. Do you also provide kind of the management through the process as far as closing out the project
Yeah.
with the contractor to make sure everything has been completed? Kind
Yeah.
of, that's what I'm used to with Rupert Milky anyway.
Sure. Yes, and I believe we already have a master service agreement between us and Columbus. So all we really have to do is write a task order, work order that says this is the scope of services we're going to do for an estimated fee of this. You approve it, or not approve it, or negotiate whatever you want. But we can very easily continue to serve you as we have since I guess 1989 when John Andler first called us. I guess and the scope of services we do are very similar to Rupert Milky. We can help you close out everything, recommend payments, make sure the contract is done accordingly. The only thing I don't do is I don't put people on site watching. I guess we're just spoiled that the contractors that work doing electrical work are pretty competent. That you trust them. We've been able to do it for a little less than what the water guys have to do watching when pipe is buried.
Yeah. So then going on is addressing the low voltage bushing at substation 3. And then other equipment here, we have the long lead time items of the transformer metering cabinet for the customer extension. So then next, so all of the unit price contract, decommissioning substation 1, replacing the substation 3 transformer bushing, this customer extension, this can all be done without regulatory approval. But when we get above projects that are a total cost of $505,000 for Columbus, then we have to bring in regulatory approval, so getting PSC approval. So our recommendation would be to, if we're going to go forward with this plan here, would be to get approval for phase 1, phase 2, and the transformer all at the same time, just for the standpoint of efficiency. Because when we're dealing with the PSC, it's simpler if we all approach it under one docket so that all the questions can be answered at one time. In terms of if a CA is granted, they typically give us a window of maybe 1 year, 2 years to start construction, but there's no back end. So even if we're working on phase 2 of the conversion for the next 5 years or so, the next 6, 7, depending on cash flow for phase 2, we can just keep giving the PSC quarterly updates of saying, yep, this is how it's progressing. So there's no back end into how far we can keep it open. So we just foresee that it'll be much more efficient, that the people that are reviewing this docket on the PSC, the DNR, the permits, it'll all be more efficiently reviewed under one so that we can all get a big picture. We can answer all their questions. The regulatory lead time is about a year. So that's why we're kind of bringing this stuff up now, even though it's, maybe a 2026 item. But it does take them about a year to review and to get all their questions asked. So that's why we're discussing about, ATC's timeline is 2028. But we have to get all of our ducks in a row for like transformers. The lead times of these items are 3-4 years. I think we included the transformer cash flow. I think, right, Rick?
What's
The transformer cash flow was included with the.
Yes.
So that's an average for the all of the transformer manufacturers. I think the average was around 2.5 years for transformer lead time. So in the grand scheme of things, you add regulatory approval lead time, you add transformer lead time, contractor mobilization times. We really have to kind of talk about a lot of these projects almost 3, 4, 5 years in advance. So that's kind of why we're having these conversations now for things that may be happening in 2028. So, yeah, that's kind of our presentation. So if there's any questions or clarifications, we'd be glad to field those questions.
I'm trying to get an idea how much the unit price contract thing is gonna cost.
For sure.
I'm reading what, the third paragraph down. Engineered joint contract documents is comprised of engineers, owners, liability, risk management, contractors from across the country.
Where are we? Hold on, pause. Where are
I
we?
think you're on page 47.
Yeah, I'm on
Oh,
this,
so we checked
the Forrester letter that you're Joshua, right?
No, I'm Jacob. Josh is one of our line guys in the office.
Well, the point is that just sounds expensive.
Oh, sure.
I'm trying to,
Yeah.
how much is this unit price contract thing cost?
Yeah, so in terms of obtaining it, it would just be the Forrester engineering. So it typically, so there's the bidding period services, there's signing of contractors. So don't put me on the spot, but it shouldn't cost more than a couple $1,000s of engineering work to obtain the contract. Could you hear me?
It's a contract for zero value. But to get the contract in place, there's the engineering and legal fees to get the contract in place. And then once it's in place, you haven't spent any money on any contractors until you decide to do it. And then each time you release a task order to them, we calculate exactly what it's going to cost you. You decide whether you want to do it or not. If you've never decided to do anything, it doesn't cost you anything.
So this is a pro forma to instruct bidders on what units to use in preparing their estimates?
Right.
And then, so you
We
can
have
put everybody on the same table when you get all the bids.
we unitized what it takes to build distribution systems with poles and wires and transformers and underground cable, and unitized it so that they get paid to build that unit if you choose to have them build it, and the fees agreed to in advance. So what's nice about it is Dalton doesn't have to babysit the contractor, and if they're working on time and material, you got to make sure they got everything in place, and they got to get out of there. You know, because you're paying for every hour. You don't have any maintenance or any oversight because you just say, this is the scope of what I want you to build, and this is what I'm going to pay you. Take as long as you want, you know, because you're only going to get paid this much. So they self-manage it and only what you want them to do. And if you choose not to use the contract, all you're out is the fact that you put a contract in place for zero value. The value is on each task order. The weird thing the attorneys might ask is, well, you're supposed to get a performance bond. And what we've done is put the performance bond not on the contract, but on the task orders. So every time you issue something, we ask for a performance bond, and that's what makes it according to the public bidding laws. And you can use our services to help you put together the task orders. We might do the first couple, but Dalton could probably do them, you know, for the smaller maintenance kind of things. You'll get the hang of it. It's like calling up J&R and say, could you bore from here to here? People do this all the time, but now it would be legal because you'd have a contractor that's your boring contractor.
Helping guide us through the public bidding process with all the
That's
needed
the part.
engineering and documents and, yeah.
We've been doing these for all our clients, and it's made it legal, and it's made it more convenient to get more work done with less people. And I think it's what you want to have in place as you enter into a period of construction that might tax more than what you have on staff to do.
So I guess the short answer would be the only guaranteed money that you'd sink into it would be the services that we would have to line up the contract of like working with contractors and asking their questions, answering back and forth. So, yep.
And those are all still individual. You're going to come forward with a task order. We have to approve it. I mean,
Correct.
we're basically agreeing to enter that process, and that doesn't cost anything until we get to the first project.
Correct. Yep.
To Jack's point about the overall costs we're seeing here, they can be a little startling and eye-catching for sure. What's the projection on the revenues you could gain from selling Circuit 301?
So that's the way the utility works, right? It's you earn your rate of return over a period of whatever the asset life is, 30 years usually. So whatever you've already earned off your ratepayers on that line, you're not going to get a second time. So it's going to be net book value that they pay, the remaining book value after it's been depreciated.
Any projection on that?
So it was put in what, 94-ish? And if it's 30 years, that would have maybe, I can't do math. It might be fully depreciated. So what's nice is it served its purpose. It'll continue to serve its purpose. If it needs to be enhanced or upgraded, somebody else is going to pay for it.
But it's not going to really help mitigate our costs. on
No,
these
I don't
projects
think,
going
it's not going to
forward.
be a moneymaker for you,
Thank you.
unfortunately. They're also going to buy the through bus at sub 3 and the through bus at sub 4 from you. Again, it's going to be pittance, but the things that they're doing with it is what's really the advantage. Yeah.
I think I don't know how to phrase the question, but as far as ATC is concerned, obviously that's been a long conversation, and it all sounds like good news, but it almost sounds too good to be true. What is the benefit to ATC by doing this investment? Are they selling us more power or able to get us more power?
Well, one thing is, some people there are looking really good to the public. So, they're public relations. They have some challenges with public relations, and this is a good one. They're also, I don't know if you knew it, but at their last 10-year assessment where they invite all the stakeholders in, you were one of the feature presentations. They were an example of how ATC, in doing their asset renewal and by engaging their customers, are doing more than just replacing their assets without engaging their customers and how they could do it better. So they use Columbus on their PowerPoint as bragging about it, and some of the executives are patting themselves on the back. And that's what they get out of it. That's kind of soft, but what they're getting out of it is there's an old line along the railroad tracks that goes through a cemetery, past an old water tower, over some garages, and they were faced with having to rebuild that, and now they're not. That's the savings that's allowing them to buy and invest in the route through town. It's a better route and it serves a better purpose. They don't get anything really more out of it. They get the same, functionality they had before, but better service to you.
And ATC owns the transmission lines, but we buy our power through WPPI, that's correct? So it's kind of like the highway and then the vehicle on the highway type of, okay.
WPPI puts power on the electric grid for you.
Yep.
And you take it off at your substations. In between, American Transmission Company is the pipeline that gets it from where they put it on to where you take it off.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
The other benefit for us is that right now sub 4 is a radial feed, and this will give us a backup feature. So that's
Creating a loop, right?
Yeah.
creating a loop. Yeah.
And it's down in the quarry. No one will see it. You happen to have the most visible substation and the most invisible substation at the same utility. Sub 3 is like right by the bypass. Everybody drives by it. But sub 4 is going to be hidden.
I don't know how common this is, I mean, what the plan is, but as far as turning over or selling property to ATC, is there anything to be aware of? Have other communities gone through this before? Are we giving up any type of local control by just handing it over, in exchange for the upgrade? Are there any concerns or?
I haven't, and they've been in business since 2001, and there was a lot of skepticism. Should we allow them to buy? Because they were required to buy the assets of the investor-owned utilities. They didn't have to buy the municipal utility transmission assets. Okay. Everyone has sold. You have sold the part up to sub 3, that used to be yours. You sold it, and that's worked out well for you. Local control, no, I guess, no. They have a lot of business practices that you have to agree to, but you've already agreed to them. Now they're going to apply inside your substation, so it might be annoying, but you might have to check in with their system operations center when you go into your very own substation. That's about the only negative I've heard. I think that's pretty reasonable in return for, them providing that kind of service.
And is there any sort of agreement that we have to
No.
sign? Any
Well, there will be
document?
some agreements, but you already have the interconnection agreement between you and ATC, which governs a lot of things that you didn't apply, but now they will. So there's no more agreements that have to happen. And there's a business practice about how they will pay you to have their assets inside of your fence. And that it's called a common facilities agreement. That's covered under that business practice, but you'll have to probably sign that because you'll be able to start charging each year a portion of your common facilities, ground grid, gravel, fence, that benefits both parties that are inside the fence. You'll be able to start charging that the share, ATC share of it, and the shares are calculated based on the ratio of investment you've made in the substation. So you'll have this annoying little thing called common facilities, but it has a caveat of you get a check from them every year.
Okay.
And you can actually charge them some of the weed control and lawn mowing too costs. So it's I don't know. It's a pretty good system. ATC's been taking care of their customers okay.
Is there a documented timeline then for ATC's work?
They, if they haven't already, Jacob, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a capital commitment agreement, that outlines what they're going to do and what what they're assuming you're doing. That letter has it been drafted, or is it soon to be drafted?
I think we should be seeing it soon, but we did have a meeting with them about this, and I think 2028 was the date that was kind of thrown out in terms of what a lot of the ATC stuff would be, when that would be happening.
So there's going to be documents. It's, I mean, this, like I said, this all sounds great, but then sometimes things change or the economy changes, and then 2 years down the road, you're getting ready for a project, and we got to wait 10 years to do that now. So I guess
They've found that they can do it with a one-page project commitment
excellent.
letter, use 2 signatures at the bottom of the letter. They treat you with respect. You're a fellow utility. If something changes, you're going to let them know. But they won't put a project team on this until they know that you have committed to what we've represented for you. So they're condensing what I've said you do and what they said they do into a letter that you'll be signing here soon.
Okay, great, thanks.
There's nothing that you have to, other than the actions that are already in the agenda, like relative to this plan, there's nothing you have to decide tonight. I don't want to pressure you. The thing is, soon we should get started on a certificate of authority application with the Public Service Commission. So after you've had a chance to digest this and maybe you have more questions, what we want is for everyone to be on board with this plan. This is what's best for the future of Columbus, the city of Columbus and the Columbus utilities. And if you agree, then we should start with that CA process, the certificate of authority process. And Jacob's been pretty good at getting them faster than almost anyone else. So I don't want to yeah, we'll see if this one. No, partly is they have a lot of turnover at the Public Service Commission, and those young kids they're hiring don't relate to old guys like me, but they relate better to young guys like him.
I'm a fan of long-term planning, so it's nice to see that all this is coming together, involvement from ATC, and then also we're going to have to borrow for this My only concern is that, you plan and then things change 2 or 3 years and the plan doesn't come to fruition. So I think kind of having you kind of lay all this out kind of gives you the big picture and just kind of hope that we can get everything signed and agreed to so it actually happens when it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might notice that there's some big numbers there, something point something million, and those are obviously borrowing type of, expenditures, but they're all back end loaded. There's a lot that gets done in before you have the big checks to write. So you have time to time the market, you get some good advice on your cash flow, plan your rates, pace it out so that it has a very low impact. You should be very successful with this plan. I think the bottom line is the ratepayers. That's what you're looking out for. You want to make sure that you're providing a good service at a good rate, and you have a large margin between competitive other utilities. And I don't believe that this is going to raise or have a rate impact that's going to put you at a disadvantage.
For the
I
cost
just
estimate-
went looking for that today. The PSC used to have an array of electrical rates.
Yes.
Do they still have that? I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I believe they still do. You'll be able to.
All right, so I was wondering where we're going to be after, a 7% hike?
Yeah. I don't know if you use WPPI services in the rate. They have a group of people that help you with rate cases, and they can show you that impact. So if you take the cash flow numbers we've generated and work with WPPI, they can calculate exactly the rate impact, probably to each rate class, and
It's in their packet. It's about a $5 a month increase based on what's proposed here.
that was what we calculated or what WPPI did.
Was it your calculations?
If it was the spreadsheet, yes.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
on
Okay,
our-
all right.
That would be, what you guys saw would be, that's a calculation that the PSC makes us do because they are also looking at to protect the ratepayers. That's their purpose. So they make us do those calculations and
So you need to increase present revenue by 5% to cover this debt service. Is that sort of
7%, I think. Yep.
7%? Okay.
And that's inclusive of the large, everything that we've been talking about. So
It's on,
Page 42.
thank you. Yep, 42. Yeah, it shows on an average residential monthly bill, a monthly increase of $5.62. One of my questions is, are all of your cost estimates based on the projected timeline of the project as opposed to today's dollars, knowing that that's a complicated question 12 hours ago, 24 hours ago, based on tariffs and moving markets?
we try to do a mixture of both. Like we
Okay.
try to consider, granted on one project, I just got like a total of like 5 letters saying prices are going up and down. So it's always tough to say what prices will be in the future, but we try to incorporate cost increases within our estimates. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, the 7% regarding the residential rates, do we know how it will impact the commercial or industrial rates?
I don't think it's on that spreadsheet, but I would have to look into that. I would say it would be a proportional increase if I had, without looking at the numbers, around a 7% or so. But yeah, for some reason the PSC, when they ask that, they don't ask for industrial or commercial, which interesting, but
So WPPI will be able to answer that question for you because they'll probably do your rate case for you. Or if you have another company that does it, they would be able to answer that. Oftentimes, so what's required is that you have to raise your revenue by this percent. It's a factor of the way utilities are regulated. There's an authorized rate of return, but it's not authorized, it's actually mandated. In other words, that they try to get you to provide good service by making sure your rates will cover your plant value, so you can replace or maintain the plant value you have. So that rate of return is kind of mandated. So like when we make an investment in plant value, the revenue has to increase. How you get that revenue is a art that is kind of it's supposed to be cost of service. You know, it's supposed to be cost of service based. It costs me this much to serve a residential customer. It costs me this much to serve an industrial customer, and the rates are proportional to your cost of service. That would be a fair if the world were fair. In a competitive marketplace, there's also like, what is Alliant charging for an industrial rate? And maybe I can't raise the industrial rate as much as I can raise the residential rate, and you know it may not be a fair distribution of that 7%, just to be competitive with your neighboring utilities.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I wish I could promise it, but
That's
you know, like
fair.
Jacob said, if it were a fair world, I'd do it across the board, right? But
This group will get to decide on.
yeah.
WPPI will come to you with the rate proposed filing, and then you get to decide on, well, we don't want the industrial rates to go up as much, you know, and you kind of, it's a little give and take or whatever, so ultimately you guys get to decide that.
7% increase is basically covering the cost of the entire project for us. Could it be done incrementally, where you don't wait till the end to do 7%, you do like two smaller increases?
Right. I mean, with the way this is laid out, and some of it can be paced over time, you could do a 2-step rate adjustment. And this rate adjustment is not going to take effect until you actually have the cash borrowed, which you don't have to borrow right away.
Sure.
So like there's a lot of financial planning you can do with the numbers we've given you tonight. And you should be doing that in parallel with having the CA filing done. Take the next month to think about it, and if you got more questions, we'd be happy to answer them. But we just want to make sure you're all on the same page before we go forward together.
Thanks.
And by that time, PSC may actually come up with a simplified
Oh,
rate
that would be
increase for
sweet.
electric. Because it's been brought up many
Yeah.
times, so.
Yeah, I don't know if you know what Joe's referring to, but there's many utilities who have been waiting and waiting and waiting for a rate adjustment, and it's not going through their system for lack of staff. And so there's a political effort afoot to make the staff work faster in a simplified manner.
It exists in water. It'd be nice if it existed in electric, so.
All right, do we want to move on to number 4 and start taking some action? I think we've got most of our questions answered. Item number 4 would be to consider and take action on the authorization to decommission Substation 1, and in the packet it says that the 2025 budget includes $20,000 to decommission that substation. So that's been budgeted for. Any questions on that, or?
I'll move to approve the authorization to decommission Substation 1.
Second.
Get a motion and a second to authorize the decommission of Substation 1. Any discussion on the motion? If none, let's take a roll call on that, Matt.
Hammer,
Aye.
Tome,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Finkler,
Aye.
Rule,
Aye.
Sanders.
Motion passes. Thank you. On to item number 5 then, which is consider and take action to direct staff to acquire a metering cabinet and transformer. That would be, let's see. We're going to acquire that due to the timeline, correct? And then that would still be reimbursed through the developer down the road.
That's correct.
Any further questions on that one, Melanie?
Oh, no, I was just going to make a motion.
Go right ahead.
Sweet. I'll move to approve staff to acquire a metering cabinet and transformer. Do I need to like put a dollar amount on that?
I think the dollar amount is 163.8, I think.
Yes, I'm not plugged in anymore, but it should be
Yeah, what worksheet are we looking
It was 120,000 and then 10,000, you know.
Should be like the third slide or so, fourth, fifth.
Trying to keep it up. Maybe like not to exceed.
Yeah.
So the projected amount's 163.8. Is that a low quote? Or is that a projected number?
That is a projected number based on, market prices.
So what amount should I pay? I put not to exceed 170?
It's where we're a little unique in that we don't have a quote for this.
Yeah.
It's on its way. I tried to get it here.
What does
but-
the commission want me to do?
We say 170, and if need be, if it has to exceed, bring it back and we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll restart my motion. I move to approve staff to acquire a metering cabinet and transformer not to exceed $170,000.
I will second.
All right, we have a motion, and a second, to direct staff to acquire a metering cabinet and transformer not to exceed $170,000. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Where's this going to go? This is the, yeah. And then the utility bills them, and then they reimburse the utility.
Any other questions? All right, we do have a motion and a second. Could you take a roll call for us, Matt?
Tome,
Aye.
Curtis,
Aye.
Finkler,
Aye.
Rule,
Aye.
Sanderson, Hammer.
Aye.
All right, then, item number 6 is consider and take action on authorization to enter into unit price contract with Forster Electrical Engineering. Again, there is no money for this. It is basically just entering into a relationship with you so you can generate task orders or agreements with us to guide us through these projects. Any questions?
I actually have a question on this. Do we have to include a dollar amount on the motion to not to exceed for just setting up the contract? Because we do have to spend some money there.
We will have to approve each contract as it comes forward.
But that's after the contract is set up. I heard we still have to probably like $1,000 or $2,000 to get the contract set up.
It would be just like Rupert Milky when they come in, they're overseeing the project, and they would give you a task order to say, here's the services.
I'm
we're
saying
providing.
before that, though.
Yeah, and I think this is probably easiest explained.
Okay.
That staff have spending authority.
That's
And
right.
it sounds like this is going to be
Forgot about
under that, and that we would find existing budgeted dollars to charge that off to. So I think it's something that if the utility commission is favorable to this, we can approve it at the expense at the staff level.
I forgot about that. Thank you.
Perhaps, I don't know, when you authorize us to put out bids publicly, does that require commission action? Like to allow us to put something out for bids?
I would assume we would,
I would argue that if it's budgeted money and that it's approved in the budget, the utility commission is granting staff to move forward in our determined way of proceeding with that work. Now, the award, if there's an award amount, then that's going to come back, and a task order, if Forster issues a task order, that's going to come to the utility commission. But just the authorization to begin the process would be intended with approval of the budget.
All right. I will move to approve entering into a unit price contract with Forster Electrical Engineering.
Second.
a motion and a second to enter into unit price contracting with Forster Electrical Engineering. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for putting together all this information.
I learned so much.
Yes,
A lot to process.
it is.
It was a well-put-together presentation.
Yes, it was easy to follow, but even though there was, yeah. All right, we'll move on to reports then. There was some information in there and some photos, summary about the update on softener project at the water plant number 1, and then also the April 2025 live lines was in the packet as well. Anything you wanted to add, Matt?
I asked Jake Tanner to put the information together on Water Plant 1 because there's been a lot of work there, and I just thought it was good information to share. I don't have anything else to share on that.
Any questions on the report? All right.
No, we'll just have to take a tour once
Yes.
everything is.
Before and after, right? Yeah. And our next meeting will be then May 22nd, is that correct? Be a week
Correct.
later than normal. All right, unless there's anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
I will second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Stand adjourned at 7:16. Thank you.